Right, so hello and welcome back to another episode of the Bach and Arthur podcast. Hooray.
Usually we clap after.
Yeah, you really need to hire some people to clap in the background.
And-
Oh, that's what I'm here for, isn't it?
Well, he needs no introduction, he butted already.
He's already introduced himself.
Sorry.
To be fair, I thought we were going to introduce him and then clap the fact that Chris is here, not the
No,
fact that
you
we're
can try
doing
it. Go
another
on, you can
His
try
podcast.
it now.
ego doesn't need it, Bach. You don't know him. He does not need it. He walks down the street and people cheer. It pisses me off. So today we've got my lovely friend ChrisMD, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, go on,
Give it a
another
clap,
round of
give it a clap.
applause. And today the topics are going to be quite interesting. So, you know, you think Chris are, for once...
Please don't leave. The topics will be
They're gonna
interesting.
Please watch.
Well, I think you've been on a lot of podcasts, especially recently, where they've spoken about football and your
Honestly,
football
just
stuff.
one that's not talking about my dating life would be fantastic. So
Yeah.
I think that's why I said,
let me
yeah.
chalk that one
yeah,
off.
no. But the podcast will no longer be interesting, guys.
But I asked Chris what his topics would be, what he'd like to have deep chats about. And that's kind of what we're like. A lot of times when we hang out, we like to have these weird deep
you
chats
guys?
about stuff. We actually do.
Yeah, I don't think it's deliberate. I think it just naturally progresses
Completely
to weird,
sober?
deep.
Yeah, no.
No, Arthur doesn't really like being sober.
No, he doesn't
Yeah,
really.
he's a very aggressive. He likes a drinking game.
I like, I do.
You do.
Do you think we should start with an introduction on who you are, just for those who don't know you, or do you think everyone should start?
No need.
Yeah, probably.
Go on, introduce yourself.
I'm not angry, Ginge.
Introduce yourself. Go on.
My name is Chris. I've been making football YouTube videos for about, well, I say football YouTube videos. Started on FIFA because I was a bit of a neek, and then moved on to football and been doing it for 10 years. Yeah.
Nice.
Pretty much it. Got a football YouTube channel and just keeping it going until my legs pack out.
Have you ever told the story of Mr. Lau's classroom on a podcast?
You name dropped it. It's our maths teacher, by the way.
Former maths teacher.
Oh, what of what the Messi video?
Yeah.
So I had this video that was me getting Messi in a pack when I had like 2,000 subscribers, and that is like the video. It took me about 4 years to get to 2,000 subscribers, and then that was the video that randomly kind of skyrocketed my channel. It got like 1 million views in 6 months or something, and that got shown on the projector when I was in sixth form in maths, biology, and chemistry. I think.
Wow.
I think it was definitely chemistry and maths. Maybe not biology, maybe not the hat trick, but yeah, that was fun.
Who showed it on the projector?
The teachers.
Yeah,
Really?
our maths teacher got it.
How did they find out about
Hilarious
it?
bloke, but
People like
They
this
were subs.
dickhead told him.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. But like, luckily, it was kind of starting to earn me money, so people
Yeah.
to some degree were like, okay, at least he's doing it.
that was the
It
thing.
wasn't like
I remember
total
people
piss
trying to
taking.
banter you, and you'd be like, "Look how much money I've made."
Yeah.
We're
Look
like,
at
I'm
that.
earning more than your parents.
Yeah, when it starts working, they can't really make fun of you, can they?
No,
Yeah.
well, yeah.
And
Well, they tried.
This was in the period as well where, like, I think a lot of people listening to it now, like if you're in school now, like my siblings are in school, and literally all of them and all their mates just want to be YouTubers or TikTokers.
Yeah.
That's literally the two. It's pretty much mainly
A
YouTubers.
lot of them want to be streamers now.
Yeah,
Really?
that's true
Yeah.
as well, streamers, but it's all social media. Whereas when we were in school,
Everyone was
there
like, what the fuck are you doing here? Everyone was
you
just
didn't
like, I
even
don't
know you could
understand
make a living
this.
for it.
Yeah.
And you were what, going to go off to study veterinary studies, possibly? That was your main
Yeah.
uni you were
You're
going to
gonna
go
be a
off
vet.
to.
Yeah, I didn't get the grades in the end, so I say that because it sounds better. But
Yeah. But I mean, had you not done YouTube at all,
Yeah,
you probably
I-
would have
yeah.
studied to get the grades.
Yeah.
yeah, I probably would have gone back and redone stuff and then became a vet in the
Are
end.
you a big animal lover then?
No, I think I realised in the end that I don't like animals enough to be a vet. Yeah, there's a lot of like sweeping up shit, which
Yeah.
was not that fun.
When he was
in the
like
end.
arm deep in a cow's anus.
That was one of the highlights actually.
Did you ever actually have to do that?
I didn't have to.
You chose to. It wasn't even part of his course.
Yeah, more a hobby in the end.
Chris, that's not how you milk the cow. Get your arm out and
Came
start.
back at 10 o'clock to the dairy farm.
Wasn't even
No.
doing anything in there.
No, yeah. So no, I was on a dairy farm at one point, and they were like, "This would be a good experience for you." And I was like, "All right,
Fine.
in for a penny, in for a pound."
Chuck it straight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
quite warm.
So
Yeah, I bet it was.
sixth form was when your YouTube career took off and our friendship really took off. Because we sat next to each other. Obviously, you
agree.
get split up into sets.
Yeah.
And we, at A-level, studied the same thing. We both did biology, chemistry, and maths together.
Oh, wow.
And we sat next to each other.
Such losers. Yeah.
And then Chris invited me along to come play football with him at St John.
Oh, yeah.
Under the wing of his father. Good old 80.
My dad was always my coach.
Oh, really?
Football growing up. So I just had a secured spot in the team.
Yeah, you'll never go.
Every team I
Always
played
the
in.
captain,
But yeah, then we had one season where all our good players left, and then I got in my friends who were shit at football.
Oh, really?
I'd never played football before
That's
that.
when you
I
got
was
the sign up.
literally awful.
We had like there was kind of a rivalry between us and this other team, and there were like a lot of people from our school, because it wasn't like school teams; it was just teams in terms of like schools, teams outside of school, and we had a lot of people that were from our school but played for this other team, and like we won the final goal coming from like Arthur and one of our other just like utter bench warmers who just like could not run to save his life, and they like combined to play this amazing 1-2 and scored the winning goal, and it was just like still to this day one of the best memories I have.
That's when you peaked, though.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
on YouTube as well. I used to.
Yeah, it was, wasn't
before
it? Yeah,
I
you
did
can still
YouTube,
find
I used
it
to
actually,
show
yeah.
it. And he makes this little joke about us just being shit at football and scoring this 1-2. But one thing I always had was pace. So if
Yeah,
the ball was
yeah.
played
Oh, really?
in behind, like there were very rarely anyone that could outpace me. So as long as the ball went in behind, I beat them to it. And that
There's
was
a good
one
clip
those
of you like
times.
standing on the ball, I seem to remember, and stacking it as well in one of those clips. Yeah.
Nice, really surprising.
You still quick then?
Yeah,
Yeah, he is,
I would
yeah.
say so.
You doesn't look. You don't
Yeah.
look quick.
Yeah, no, we have this like YouTube football five-a-side thing that we play, and I'd say probably the fastest player. But now I'm getting old.
Cocky.
The legs are
Probably the
going.
fastest by
I'm
some
probably
point.
yeah.
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 Anyway, enough
Broken
about
the
me.
sound barrier every time.
Broke the sound barrier.
Oh yeah, and then
Break the sound barrier.
this is kind of a funny one. So when about starting YouTube, I don't know if I've ever spoken about this as well, because I obviously started YouTube because of you. I was at uni, went to London and was like, God, I need a lot more money. And I don't really want to get like a job where I might get called in
This
the day before
dweeb
my
can do it,
exam.
so can I.
And that's exactly what I thought.
Right, you dickhead.
And but I didn't tell anyone for absolutely ages. And how was it you found out again?
Yeah, this is a really
Oh, he didn't
weird
tell
story.
you?
So I found out because I think Shan watched your Instagram story once, and you'd accidentally put, so you had an account for ArthurTV and then an account for your actual profile, and you'd accidentally put a thing saying like thanks for 50k subs on his personal Insta, and it was up for like 20 seconds.
Yeah, there were only 7 viewers.
Please, Shan had notifications on for red flag.
Yeah.
But like the fact that we spotted that, and then I think she screenshotted it, and I sent you a message being like, "What's going on here then?"
Yeah.
And I remember just thinking that is so weird that you
You sent
didn't
me
tell
quite-
me until you had 50k, like
Yeah,
not even like
50K as well.
2,000 subs, 50k
Yeah.
subs
Yeah.
on YouTube.
Yeah, I would have done it way lower than 50.
Yeah,
At what
yeah. Why
point-
did you do that?
What were you waiting for? 1 mil.
Until he overtook me and
Probably
then he died.
100, probably 100k. My big fear was that because when you went off to do YouTube and I went off to do law, we didn't speak as much. Like, we're still mates and stuff. We'd still play football in the summer and stuff. But I didn't want to message you and just be like, hey, I've started YouTube, and have this kind of like, oh, he's telling me because he wants me to come on his videos.
That's actually
and that
really
kind of
sweet,
stuff.
you know.
I wanted to be like, oh, I've made it by myself.
Yeah.
And then, because I think the first time I had a collab was when I had 300k. I think I hit 300k and then collabed you the day after. But I didn't want people being like, oh, you only have subscribers because you're ChrisMD's
Yeah.
mate. I was like, I want to kind of like get a decent subscriber base and be like, oh, by the way, Chris, like I do YouTube, I can do it by myself. But like, if you ever need someone for a video or something, obviously,
I'm
Please.
fucking
then
like
it works.
That's I've got respect for that. That's
And now
really
he,
impressive.
now we
That's
shoot
actually really
content
cool.
quite a lot.
Good work, man.
Yeah, fair enough, Arthur.
It was really embarrassing, actually.
What were your
Oh,
first
yeah, of
videos?
course.
They were faceless, weren't they?
Faceless, yeah. Well, that was part of being in
The
a
good
law
old
firm.
days.
Because obviously, like, I roast people in my videos
Face for
quite a
radio.
lot.
Yeah.
I was worried that someone would write to my HR team at my law firm like, he's calling this person, you know, whatever. And I'm just like, oh God, I didn't mean it.
Yeah, they just reply back, he's like that in the office.
And then obviously, because with law firms, they're very like, they can't have anything that will ruin their image. So I was like,
Yeah.
I worked all these years to get a law degree, and I finally got a law firm. I don't want to jeopardize it.
Yeah.
So which is why I went for Arthur TV rather than Arthur Frederick originally. And yeah.
You still went
Nice.
for your first name.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah. That would be weird if you had a different first
Yeah,
name on
true.
your
Yeah,
YouTube.
true,
I think that's
actually,
the right
yeah.
way of doing
He
it.
just goes to Chris.
Chris TV.
Yeah,
That would be amazing.
I did think about it, but like I said, I had Banksy Kid when I was younger.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I-
that was your Xbox
that
gamer
was my
tag,
Xbox
wasn't
gamer
it?
tag. And then I found that so cringe when I was growing up
Yeah.
that I was like, I didn't want to pick a YouTube name that I'd find cringe later on.
Yeah.
So I was like, just go with the name and TV. So I do TV shows. Anyway,
Anyway,
let's
enough of the chit
start the
chat.
topics off with a
Yeah.
big bang.
Nice
Okay.
line.
So one of
Very
the things that Chris, when I asked him, I was like, what do you want to talk about in depth? He said the beginning of the universe. Obviously, we've got a little space boy here. Do you know what
What does that mean?
Do you want to tell him about your space?
I know you've got some background in physics, right?
Yeah, I got a degree in astrophysics.
Oh, awesome. So did my mum, actually.
Oh,
She did
sick.
astrophysics, yeah.
Oh, nice. See?
Now then she turned into a teacher, so big lot of use that did her.
Should have become a YouTuber.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, yeah, same use as done you, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't do astrophysics,
Yeah,
guys. There you go.
It's not worth it.
Sorry. Anyway.
So what are your thoughts on the beginning of the universe?
It just really like fascinates me. I think just the fact that we know so little about it. But obviously we know a lot about it at the same time, but realistically we'll probably never, it's very likely that we won't figure it out in our lifetimes. And that just annoys me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like that sucks that we'll probably die just not knowing what everything is about.
That's why I'd love to be brought back in the future.
Yeah.
If they ever figure it out, so I'd know, because we are going to die without knowing, maybe.
Yeah.
Probably.
It's surely it's like 99% likely, right?
We're just never going to know.
It might be one that there's just no way of knowing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of physicists now, when they talk about it, think that pre-Big Bang, or even in the first instances of the Big Bang,
Yeah.
sort of the rules of physics that we know today just sort of break down at a fundamental level. So,
Yeah.
and obviously, like, that's the start of time. The Big Bang is like the start of time as we know it. Like, is asking what happened before time began even?
That was the bit that always messes with my head, like the fact that time didn't exist once.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Although there is a theory that there was no beginning to the universe. Like there will be no end. So it's just infinite. But infinite is such a hard thing to get your head around
Yeah.
because it goes against everything we know.
That you know, yeah.
Yeah, like there's no beginning to it. Makes no real sense.
Yeah.
We had an interesting conversation with Chris's editor, actually. So we were on the shoot the other day, and he was just speaking about like why he believes in God. I mean, the classic lunchtime break on a ChrisMD shoot. And
Did Arthur bring that up, by the way?
No,
I think he did,
I
actually.
think he did.
He said
yeah.
something
Oh,
like-
yeah, no, I'm creative director, not editor.
Oh, creative director. And he said something that like implied he believed in God. And I think we had spoken about it with your team like before. And they were all just like, oh, no, we're not. And then he was like, I believe in God. And we were like, why?
Yeah.
And one of his things was like pre-Big Bang, saying like something must have caused it.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between believing that there was like, you know, likely to be some sort of higher being or whatever caused what we
Yeah.
live in, and then also believing that the religions that we have today, whichever one you choose to believe, is like, or you know, we have proof, because very much in my opinion, nothing that has ever been discovered by or the people believe in religions is, you know, proof of a God. But that doesn't disprove the fact that there still could be one outside what we've observed so far.
Yeah,
that makes
that is
sense.
true. I mean, some great physicists, like even Albert Einstein, believed in God. And yet,
Really? I didn't know that, actually.
yeah, and yet he came up with some of the most important things in physics today.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. The Big Bang wasn't actually the beginning of the universe. It was the universe was already it already
Yeah.
existed. The Big Bang just kickstarted inflation, and then everything which is a crazy thing in itself. Just inflation, the fact everything started.
Tell me about it, man.
Yeah.
A living
Fucking
crisis.
inflation.
Well, that
alright?
was one of the things. So obviously people always have this kind of idea, if you accept the Big Bang, it's like what caused it, what was before that, like because it started and had a start, it must have a cause. But again, I was reading something the other day that quite a lot of physicists now think that sort of the universe always existed in this sort of like quantum state.
Yeah.
And that's another one, because people talk about everything that every effect has a cause. So you go back, and you've eventually got to get to God. But even now, like physicists say that the traditional like ideas of cause and effect break down at a quantum level. So there's just so little that we can
It's
know
so
about
annoying,
before
isn't
that.
it?
Yeah.
You just want an answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. At the quantum level, it's not like that. Cause
Yeah.
and effect. You can't predict things anymore. Things
Yeah.
aren't predictable. So you get something, you can't say that caused it.
Yeah.
It's all a mess.
Yeah, and like it and also is that, you know, say our universe and whatever started it, like is that it, or is there more universes? Is there more? Is there bigger than that? And how far does it go out? It's just, it's just frustrating.
That's
isn't it?
another
We know so little.
Another theory, the multiverse theory, is that the Big Bang is just one spot where there's like a multitude of universes, yeah, in one space.
Unify.
Yeah, it sounds better, doesn't it? And the Big Bang is just where it stopped and started another one, and there's a Big Bang somewhere else, stops and starts another one, and it's
Yeah.
all like that. But then what are those universes in? Another universe?
What?
That's what gets me, is the fact that the universe is just the universe and it's not in something else. Because everything we know is in something up until you get to the point.
Yeah.
You know
Like
what I mean?
what's outside, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
in your
exactly.
head. It is just the coolest thing ever, though. Like learning about stuff like that and just being like, this actually happened. Like, that's actually our reality. And you just go about everyday life, just living in your small little bubble world, and like actually just being when you stop and you're just like, what is this? It's great. It's the coolest thing ever.
It gives you a real existential crisis, though. Just sitting and thinking how like small,
You can't
and
think about it for too long.
insignificant and irrelevant we are.
You can't.
Yeah, but
Because,
it's great.
Yeah, because you start to think, jobs are pointless. Because if you even just if you see a photo of Earth, then you start to think, damn, you forget you're on Earth. Like you forget this, we're just on a planet, and then you think, is anything we're doing worth it? Like we're just here to die anyway.
Yeah.
That
kind of brings us on to
ties into sort of the meaning of life, because I think without any kind of objective, your purpose in life, especially if you're not religious and you haven't got your purpose is to serve God or worship a God or, carry out these certain deeds or anything like that, it really does become what is the point in life for everyone and anyone. Like when you think about like, what is the point in living, what is it for you?
I think it's just, this is my best theory at this point in my life, is that you've got this set time on Earth. You've just got to enjoy it as much as you can and do things that you love and do it with people you love.
What?
Yeah. He's like, fuck, why am I here? But yeah, like, I think you've just got your time. It's like that Gandalf quote in Lord of the Rings. I can't remember the exact words, but, all that's for us to decide is how to spend the time that we've been given, or something along those lines. And it's just, you've got this time, you've got to just enjoy this weird existence that you've somehow got as a chance in 1 in a billion, that you've developed a consciousness and have the ability to play football and love and everything. So I'd say you just gotta fucking enjoy it before you get cancer.
Yeah.
Beautiful. It was beautiful until the last bit.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, you kind of had a bit of an experience like that. We were on a flight back from one of your shoots, weren't we?
Honestly, the thing I had the other day was worse. I talked to you about the avalanche, didn't I?
Oh, tell the avalanche story.
That's worse.
This is wild.
So I went to visit a friend in Seattle the other day. Just like probably my oldest friend, and just hadn't seen him in ages. So I went over to Seattle for like 5 days. We went on a hiking. Went on a hike in the North Cascades, which is in Washington, and really beautiful mountain range. It was snowy, so we got snow boots and went up on the mountain and stuff. Checked beforehand to see if there was any avalanche warnings. They were like, no, it was end of the season, so they weren't giving out warnings or anything anymore. And turns out we just didn't really do enough research on it. So it was a 9-mile hike, so it was quite a decent way. Out in the wilderness, you've got like grizzly bears, black bears and stuff around. So we had like bear spray and stuff. That was the thing I was mainly worried about.
Yeah.
We actually set off and he was like, I forgot the bear spray, but like, we won't need it. I've never seen one. I was like, you're not supposed to keep walking until you see one and then start bringing bear spray. But yeah, we were all prepared and everything. Got up to the hike, had a really nice lunch at the top. And then we're coming back down. And there were other people doing our trail. So we weren't worried about it. We were like, okay, like, we've done this research. We'd asked people in the shop, like, is it okay to hike? And they were like, yeah, it'll be fine. And we were just a bit, because there were loads of other people around. We weren't worried that it was one that we were doing in the middle of nowhere or anything. But all these people were walking up and then skiing down. So they had like skins on where you could basically walk up with skis and then, ski down. We had snowshoes, so we just had to walk back down. And so we were coming back down the trail, back down into the valley, and there's still snow everywhere, so like really deep, like a meter deep of snow or something. And we're walking, maybe we've got about an hour and a half left, and we hear like a jet plane, like a fighter plane coming through. And my friend's like, oh yeah, you get like F-16s through here all the time. We're looking around for it. It's like maybe like 5-10 seconds. And then we're just like, that's not a plane. And it was genuinely so loud that your first thought is just like, that's 100% a fighter jet. And then on the other side of the valley, there's this fucking avalanche. Oh my God. And like literally, if we were walking 10 minutes earlier, it was where it was like we still had to walk through where it happened. And so it was really one of those points where you're like, Okay, now we know that there can be avalanches around here. We've got all this, like, it was kind of a bowl valley, and we had to like walk around, and the avalanche sort of happened like here, and we were kind of up here, so we still had to walk past like this whole bit of snow where there potentially could be avalanches. And in a weird way, we were like, right, the safest place now is where the avalanche has just happened. And so that like 10 minutes between us seeing it, then being like, there's no other way down. Either we like call a helicopter to come and pick us up, or we try and get down here. We had no signal, so like we were just like, right, we just have to just try and get down as quick as we can. I think it was because it was late in the day and everything was melting, but yeah, probably the most scared I've ever been in my life. That's like those terrifying. 10 minutes. Yeah. And then eventually we got down. I was like, it would have just been so funny if I was at that point when the avalanche had happened, like me with the bear spray, just like Jon Snow against the Battle of the Bastards. Yeah, just like, come on, I can take it. But yeah, that was a real, probably my worst near-death experience I've had. Because like, if we had been caught in it, like 100% death, it was a big one.
I've always been afraid of avalanches, and it's never obviously there's no threat around here. But in the back of my mind, you know, it's like the Bermuda Triangle, stuff like that. I'm always like in the back of my mind terrified of. Avalanches is one of them. It's got to be one of the worst ways to die because you'll just suffocate.
For sure. Honestly, like the power of it in real life was so scary.
Did you feel it, or you just heard it like a rumble?
Like, yeah, just how loud it was being the other side of the valley from us was just fucking crazy.
Yeah. Did you see it?
Yeah, I could. So slightly there were trees in the way, so I could only really see it through the trees. But you could still see it enough to be like, oh, okay, like we would have died if we had been stood there.
Oh my! Have you ever had a near-death experience?
Not that I can think of.
I don't think I have.
No. Damn. I mean, do you think it's quite a dark question? But do you think if you had died and you had a couple moments before you died, you would have been like, you know what, I've lived a good life?
I'd have been pissed.
Really? Because do you not think we've lived already like a much better life than pretty much every human that's ever existed?
Yeah, but I think so much of my,
like, not only just being modern people, but you as well, like being a YouTuber as well. Like living the dream. You've been playing football non-stop for the past 10 years.
Yeah, but I also
You've got
think
your
like,
friends with me. Like, it's
okay, yeah, just stop now. I think like a lot of my purpose of living as well is to find the person that I want to spend my life with. So if I'd have died before I found the one, I'd have been quite pissed off. Yeah, that would have been my thought as it was coming to with me. I'd been like, I'll just fuck off. Like, come on, man.
So, yeah, you want a complete life experience, I feel.
Yeah.
What about you? If you're sort of, if something happened where you were like, wow, this is actually it.
Oh, no, I'm not ready yet.
What would you be thinking?
The thing is, for me, I really want to leave my mark on the world. I think I've got a lot more to do yet. So,
nice.
Yeah, I don't want to go yet. I'm not ready.
I take it you haven't been listening to the podcast.
No, I haven't.
What?
Bach leaves bits of his DNA around the globe so that really briefly,
right?
Just because people
how
have
many
already
kids
had this.
Do you have?
No. This is clever, right? So my theory is, we don't think we're going to die.
Saying this is clever before saying your own theory is so funny.
Yeah, I know.
By the way,
here's my theory. By the way, no, I don't think I'm going to die. But in case I do, I'm leaving bits of hair like around the world. Maybe I'll like put it in a capsule with a note saying, you need to bring me back, I'm important, or I know something. So that the hope is someone will find it later down the line.
Right.
And hopefully they've got the technology at that point.
To bring you back
so they
with,
can
with a
bring
strand
me
of your
back.
hair.
Exactly. But then Arthur said, if they bring me back, it's just going to be a clone. It's not actually going to be me, which is a good point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of have
you
no
have the
idea.
same consciousness. Yeah.
So technically they could bring any one of us back if we die. Even if we don't leave DNA around. Say they've got our records on the NHS or something. They could bring one of us back, clone us, and we wouldn't know about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really annoying, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like the fact that they could do that, but it still wouldn't be us.
I know.
Yeah.
Still not
wonder
that
what
progression
version
of
would
your
be
consciousness.
like.
Yeah.
Do you think they would be similar to us?
Relatively. You'd have all the nature side, but you'd have none of the nurture side.
Yeah,
I think they'd be very
interesting.
different, actually.
Yeah.
I think a lot of how you're brought up changes you.
Could end up with like an evil ChrisMD out there.
Yeah. Or a good one.
Yeah.
What about you guys? Well, I didn't ask you guys. What do you think about the meaning of life? What was your approach to it?
I like the answer you gave. We're lucky enough to get this life, and you get a finite period of time. Live it how you want to live it, and really enjoy it. And I really think the meaning of life probably is just to reproduce. It's something as simple as that. Like biologically, and you'd probably agree with that,
The
wouldn't you?
face you just gave there.
Started,
that
like,
was
quivering a
so
little
weird.
bit.
Yeah.
I disagree because I was doing that 'cause when we speak about this, that's what I always
lot
say.
of
I don't know.
frustration there.
I've just realised as well, it must be somewhat genetics. Obviously, my dad has 9 kids, so I must have something genetic in me that's
Something's in
going like, breed. Right.
Fuck. That explains a lot, actually.
Yeah.
So that would be the one. And I often tussle with this because given I kind of came to the conclusion that for me, a big part of it is a similar sort of thing, like finding someone that I fall in love with and spend the rest of my life with and find happiness with them, and having kids is going to be a big part of that for me. And I think it calms me down a little bit, the idea of dying and ceasing to exist, having like children and offspring, just going like, oh, in the year 3000, like no one's going to have a clue who I was. Nothing I ever did will matter, but there might be 1,000 of my descendants, and some of them might be kings, some of them might be degenerates, but at least they're just out there doing stuff.
Some might be
how far down does it go before you kind of don't care, or is it more just the
Forever,
idea
just that some of my DNA stays in there, and that, or even, but I guess then you get into a butterfly effect, because it's like, even if I don't have kids, my effect is still, you know, your kids are different. Your kids are, if you end up having kids, your kids are going to be different to the kids you would have had if I had never existed.
Just because
I interacted. So we kind of all shape the world and the future of the world.
That is true.
Regardless of whether or not we have kids. So maybe.
I'm kind of selfish in the way that I don't want my kids to be better than me, though. Imagine.
He said this before. It's weird.
Yeah, no. Imagine you have a son, right, Chris?
Yeah.
And he makes a football YouTube channel.
Yeah, and he's
that
like
just
insane at free
smashes
kicks.
yours.
Yeah.
No, but imagine his channel gets way bigger. He's a better footballer.
I'd love that.
Way better
Yeah, I
at
would
free
love that.
kicks.
I'd love that.
No, but it wipes off. No, but then everyone remembers you as, oh, the dad was all right, but the kid.
I think I'm different to a lot of people, and I don't care about my legacy or how I'll be felt. Like, all that matters to me is like what I enjoy.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit about like how I'll be remembered. I don't think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So I do have a small thing. I think I definitely have.
Right there.
Just glad you didn't point to me.
I definitely have a kind of sense of like, I definitely want to, at least for over a short period of time, have some sort of positive impact where people go like, oh, you know, he really put in an effort to sort of like spread the ideas of the importance of like conservation of wildlife and looking after our environment are probably 2 of my big ones. And then also, I do think morality as well, like the stuff that we talk about and we're talking about here, I think, especially in an age, like if you look in the UK at sort of like religiosity over time, like non-belief is, I think, just past 50%. So it's for the majority. And I think for a lot of people, I mean, I certainly found it when I grew up Christian and then left religion, kind of thought like, I don't really have any guide and I have no idea how to figure out any of these questions. Like, what is the point in me being here if you know, all the things that I grew up believing, I don't necessarily believe anymore. Like, what is the point in me existing? Like, what is the point in being a good person? Because, you know, like realistically, if there's not a God watching, why do I still feel the need to pick up, you know, trash on the thing? And why do I still treat a stranger nicely who I'm never going to see again? Like, why smile at an old lady on the tube? That's
Why did you say it like that?
Old lady on the
Tube.
and that kind of
Just
stuff.
looking to spread your seed. That's what you're doing. Just putting the groundwork in, aren't
want
you?
to breed.
Yeah.
I think they're a bit beyond it. I tend to
tried
smile
it.
at the very old ones.
It's a bit fun.
But yeah, and so I think that there's definitely like an important role to be played by, you know, I mean, if there are people that look up to any of us, they'll be, you know, looking to us. And if there are people who kind of are in a similar position where they haven't necessarily got an objective guide somewhere, they'll be asking all these questions. And I think it's quite cool to be able to go, oh, actually, let's discuss these and make people think like, what is my purpose in life? Because then maybe they try harder to achieve it, or like, what does being a good person mean? And maybe they'll focus more on being a good person and all that kind of stuff.
I think as well, if like in your case where you know, your family were Christian or whatever, and you've been brought up like that, and then it's kind of been taken away from you by, you know, by you just working out that you don't believe it. Like, that's, I think, a harder process to go through than, like, my family were always atheists. So just growing up and being like, I do this because it's a nice thing to do or something like that. Can imagine that's quite a kind of like floor being taken away from your feet kind of moment, you know, if you've always been sort of drilled into you do this because of God and you do this because it's, you know, you're going to go to heaven or whatever. So
yeah, do you have a bit of a crisis?
Yeah.
A little bit. I think the big thing getting over it is the idea of hell. Because obviously we naturally as humans, I mean,
right.
have this fear of death and fear of it all ending and all that kind of stuff.
Suddenly I'm not worried about going to hell and doing bad things.
Well, so when you leave religion, like if you're going to go, I no longer believe.
Yeah.
And let's say I was a Christian personally, so I would say the second I decided, I know some people interpret the Bible as saying once you're saved, you're always saved. But some people disagree with that. The risk for me, I guess I had my own Pascal's wager of kind of like, why would I not believe? Because if I'm, you know, if I choose to disbelieve, I'll either end up in hell or, you know, nothing will happen. Whereas if I continue to believe, either nothing will happen or I end up in heaven. And it took me a long time to read about Pascal's wager and why it's like flawed. And it was the exact same one I said to what's the role again? Producer?
Creative director. He kind of said the same kind of thing. He was like, I might as well believe. And then it's like, well, what happens if God is testing us in a different way? And it's actually a sort of like test on whether you know, will believe things without good evidence or whether they, you know, he it's not very likely though, is
but
it?
He could easily say like, oh, you know, there could easily be a God. And he could say, I believe that the teachings of Christianity are immoral. You follow them. Therefore, I think you're immoral. So you go to hell. And it's like, you know, there could be any one of different measures for going to heaven or hell and you don't really know, but leaving and just being like, oh God, if I do this and they're right, I'm going to hell forever. That's like the main, the main difficult one.
You've kissed me too many times. You're 100%
You are so in hell.
It's not even close, pal. Don't worry about it.
Well, I think the main thing of whether you get into heaven or hell isn't whether you're necessarily a good or a bad person. And that's one of the kind of things that logically it's easy to struggle with, is just going like, you can be an awful, awful person and just like murder loads of people. But if you like believe in these values, if you believe Jesus is the Son of God and is your savior, then you get to heaven, or, you know, other certain things in other religions where you can still go to heaven despite being a bad person. But you can be like the best person ever. But just because you didn't believe in that one thing, because you didn't believe there was sufficient evidence, you go to hell. And it's like, is that logical?
That seems, there's an argument. Oh, I think it's a quote by, it might be Tim Minchin, or I can't remember who it is, but like, you know, when people say to them, oh, like, why don't you believe in God? And it's like, well, you don't believe in the other 6,000 that humanity has always, you know, that humanity has believed in. I'm just not believing in one more.
Yeah, that is a great quote.
Yeah, I think that's Ricky Gervais, is it?
Might be Ricky Gervais.
I've definitely heard him say that one.
Like, would God not understand how some people have been tricked into thinking that there's no God by the evidence? Like, it seems a little harsh to send people to hell just because they've not believed. Like, surely he can be understanding about it if it was the case. Like, it's quite believable that he doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
This is something there's a guy called Matt Dillahunty who started off as a Christian and left it and now debates the existence of God. And he always says, God knows that I don't believe. God knows what it would take to get me to believe. God doesn't present me with that evidence. So what am I supposed to do? Like that, he just goes, that's not my problem.
Yeah.
He's like, you know, whatever evidence is out there, I mean, you know, you can spend all the time in the world. I mean, I love it. Like I spend the majority of my days probably at the moment, like if I'm cooking or cleaning and stuff, like listening to debates on the existence of God. And I don't think I've ever heard one argument where I've been like, that is sufficient for me to believe.
Yeah.
And like, if there is a God out there, he can see me trying. Like I'm looking for the arguments, looking for the answers. He knows that none of these are persuading me. He knows what it would take to persuade me.
Yeah.
He's not presenting it with me. And then he's going to go,
yeah, just stop honey dicking me, mate. Like, come on.
Give me the real
trying.
deal.
Yeah.
Have you ever doubted it, given you grew up as an atheist?
No.
Were you ever like, oh, maybe...
That I would love to believe in a God, you know, the idea of heaven and everything, it fills the void of nothingness, doesn't it? Like,
that's
the
so
idea of
true.
heaven is the nicest thought in the world, but it's not real, is it?
Yeah, I think there was a time where I really wanted to believe, especially because like I said before, my nana's a really strong Christian.
Yeah, mine
really,
as well.
Really believes, really wants her grandkids to believe, because I think she wants everyone to be in heaven and stuff like that. And so hearing about it and stuff and hearing stories, I do want to believe, but or I did. But I just couldn't with what I knew, and also the path that I went down, like a very scientific path.
I think learning about science really kind of
It does, yeah.
It just kind of makes you realize how unlikely it is. And
Yeah,
helps you to
exactly.
see through some of the less believable stuff.
Did you find that with your mother having a degree in astrophysics, that you spoke about that a bit more?
It's
or-
weirdly, my dad was like more read up on it and stuff.
Yeah.
But my parents are both teachers, so we're both quite knowledgeable and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, like my granny used to be like very devout Christian. Then my grandpa had a stroke and just like changed into a totally different person for 7 years and then died. So she was like, well, there's no God.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is interesting because I do think when we talk about it, you're much more on the side of you almost have a disbelief. You
Yeah.
will often say like, oh, God's not real or heaven's not real and stuff. Whereas I'm much more of a, I just do not know.
I think I edge towards that side as well.
You would say-
atheist rather than, is it agnostic where you say you don't
Yeah,
know?
you're not really,
Yeah, I think I am more atheist, just with the evidence at hand that I've been given, and it's just like a personal belief. There's nothing for me that makes me think the evidence for a God is legit enough for me to think,
Yeah.
But does
It
that not
could
leave
be.
you in the I don't know? Just like there could be, there couldn't be.
No, because I genuinely, I think everything comes down to a quantum realm probably, and not, it doesn't, it's a difficult one because people will say, if there's any influence from the outside or any influence of energy, then that is a God. It's hard when you don't have a,
Yeah,
like a
which it
definition
could.
of God.
I'm very much like that could be. Yeah.
Yeah,
But I just don't think it's anything that we've observed.
It's just that I think what I believe in is I don't believe in a God as we know it, as like,
Yep.
as people say what a God is. I don't believe in that version of a God. Maybe there's an influence from something, whether it's energy or, there's a God particle or something. I could believe in that, but to me that isn't God, because that's just not a definition of God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just the fact that there's no, in the whole history of the human race, there's no repeatable evidence
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah, that is
Like
the
how?
tough thing. Like,
If it
if,
exists, how?
this was another one that I kind of thought about Christianity, was that if God was going to do something so great as to like send himself down in human form to save us all and get crucified on the cross and come back and, be resurrected, surely he would do it in a way that we could ourselves test it and verify it. And I know part of it, like a lot of people argue that that's where belief comes in. But like we were saying the other day, like belief can lead you to believing anything, like even contradicting beliefs.
Yeah.
Like you can say, oh, that's where just faith comes in, but faith can lead you to incorrect conclusions. So it's like, and the devil himself knew that God exists, but still rebelled. Like just because God says, I do actually exist, and he removes doubt that he exists, doesn't mean we necessarily have to follow him or his word. So why not just take that doubt out of people's mind and just go, oh yeah, here's some evidence that I exist. Like it's now reasonable for you to believe I exist.
Would make more sense.
And
wouldn't
now
it?
you can, yeah.
I think what I struggle with, and this is specifically to do with Christianity because I'm not as knowledgeable on the other religions, is the proof. I think if you ask most Christians, what's the proof you have of a God, they would say the Bible, right? But I think if you believe in God because of the Bible, then you have to believe everything in the Bible. And if you believe everything in the Bible, then you end up wrong at some point.
Yeah, it's quite hard to stay on that line, right?
Exactly, because they think the Earth was made in how many days? Like,
Yeah.
and we
Well,
know,
yeah, it's evolution, basically.
yeah, evolution.
Disproves it entirely.
We know scientifically that not everything in the Bible is correct. But if you're a Christian, surely you have to believe everything in the Bible. Because why would you put truth amongst?
Yeah, but
guesses?
they do though. So you can go to the Ark encounter in the US and they have...
You're talking about the Bill Nye thing. Did you
Yeah,
see that?
he explored it for about 2 hours, didn't he?
Yeah.
And they genuinely will have reasons for all of the... Every single
Yeah, I bet they
bit
would.
of evidence where you go, this is evidence that the Earth is, 4.54 billion years old and the universe is 13.8. And I mean, I had it as well because I said to Bach when I went on the Low IQ podcast that we were speaking about science a lot and I brought up evolution and the Big Bang. And there were just one or two comments and they were obviously religious people just saying like, you shouldn't believe in these things. These aren't true. And I think as a science lover, I think that's the particularly sad bit for me when religion comes in and goes like the Big Bang and like the creation of the you know, the creation of the universe in terms of the way it is today, and like the diversification of life and like how it got here, and this like incredible story. These are like the coolest things ever, and like as accepted as anything else. And you know, I think so many of the same issues. I mean, to be fair, when we first even brought it up and we were saying we wanted to speak about this, there were a few comments like, oh, you know, can you actually guys explain at some point like how these things are like accepted and stuff? And, you know, you get the classic things like, oh, like, why do you believe in the Big Bang? It's just a theory. And
you can
it's like,
see it.
Yeah, but not only that, like, you know, the fact that atoms exist is an atomic theory. The fact that germs cause diseases is the germ theory of disease. Like,
it's the whole, just the basis of science, isn't it? It's just, you know, believing something because we have evidence. That's just like, I think it, the thing that not annoys me, but like is the saddest is when people say, oh, you're just closed-minded because you don't want to believe things. It's like, I think science is the most open-minded way you can be. Like, you believe in anything, but why believe in something if there's not evidence for it? I think it's just not being gullible and believing in things just because it's a nice thought. You know?
Yeah.
I think that would be do you want to discuss briefly about how we know about the Big Bang? Because I think this could be...
Yeah, I mean...
I'm sure quite a lot of people will be curious, and I know a couple of them, but...
Yeah, the Big Bang was a theory for ages, but it's not a theory anymore because you can see the Big Bang. Because if you look out with a big telescope, you can look far enough into the universe, which means the light at the very edge of the universe has taken 13 billion years to get to us, which means we're looking 13 billion years in the past. And so what we see is the Big Bang, and we can see the reverberations and everything, which points us to we know the Big Bang happened. So anyone who denies the Big Bang, I think that I do struggle when people say, oh, you can't speak about that because it's not true, it's just a theory, you don't know. When in science, we say
everything is a theory.
Exactly. And we say outright, we want to be wrong about things so we can find the truth.
So you test them and test them and test them. You try and disprove yourself.
Exactly. And it's just a constant thing. Like you said about change has to happen. And for change to happen, you have to be disproving yourself. And eventually you get better theories which work better. I mean, there's loads of theories that we do have that just we're constant, they change a lot, and things we're constantly striving towards, like is it grand unification theory, where there's 4 fundamental laws of nature. Only 3 unify at like the Big Bang or just after the Big Bang. And we assume that gravity will unify with those 4 laws at a certain point, but we don't know that. We haven't tested it. So
that's what we're doing with the particle accelerators, isn't it? We're recreating those first few moments to see if we can have a grand unifying theory. But it is the sad thing, because obviously, like, in science, theory doesn't mean what it means in normal conversation. If you go like, I have a theory, that's what a scientist would consider a hypothesis. And a theory, like, once you've got something as a theory, it's like it's an explanation for an observation in the natural world that is just based on mountains of evidence. I mean, like the Big Bang, for example, like you say, like there's so many things. Like we can tell that all the galaxies are sort of flying apart from each other and see how fast they're all going away from each other. If you reverse the maths on that, it all comes down and meets in one specific point 13.8 billion years ago. And then you can use that to make a bunch of predictions like, oh, well, if it was once very hot and dense, the entire universe must have at one point been just this dense ball of plasma. And as the universe expanded, that will have been stretched out, and that energy still should be everywhere. And when we look out with, you can look out, and that's what the cosmic microwave background radiation. And that's what that is. That is literally when you look in all directions with a microwave antenna, you can see, and we even predicted, I think we predicted when proponents, because I think initially there was the steady state model, wasn't it? That sort of like, we knew that the universe was expanding, but we kind of had this idea that as it expanded, it would fill with more matter. Like matter would be created so that it would stay roughly equally dense in matter. And when we were sort of like the Big Bang theory and sort of the idea that it would just be this expanding universe where everything was flying apart from each other came in, we kind of had this idea that if this is the case, then there should be this energy kind of everywhere. And they even calculated roughly that it would be around 5 kelvins in temperature, and it is 2.7. And that kind of stuff, it's like and again, like you were saying, looking back in time, you know, if we sort of, when we realized that reversing this clock, if everything goes back to 13.8 billion years ago, we go, okay, well, if we play this, about 500 million years into that, we should see the first galaxy sort of forming. And if you look 13.4 billion years, 13.3 billion years, light years away, we see the first galaxies forming.
Yeah.
And having all of these predictive powers and the ratio of hydrogen to helium in the universe, like there are all these predictions that these things can make.
Yeah, that line up.
And we look at them and we see that they're true. And it's the exact same with evolution. Fossil evidence, archaeological evidence, DNA evidence, like all of them from different like fields of science all come together to say the exact same thing.
I think a lot of people as well kind of like, it's very easy to be black and white about like, okay, you've got like scientists and then you've got, you know, religion or whatever. And it's like, scientists are just people that have researched it and have the kind of best knowledge that we have at this point. And it almost goes like too deep into like vaccines and stuff, but it's just like, those are the people that are more in the know than you are and have researched it, and it's not like they're a bunch of evil people who want the world to burn.
yeah, exactly. I think that is a problem. Like, say you know a lot about a topic, when someone doesn't know so much about it, and you'll see it in comments all over like social media, they'll say, no, but that's impossible, that just doesn't make sense. But it's because they haven't really looked into it. And people are too quick now to give their opinion on something they don't really have an understanding on. And so then that's when you just get
look at this podcast.
I mean, look what we've started here. And what I like about science is that there's no selection bias. Like selection bias is just taken away. Like with a lot of beliefs, and I'm not saying religious beliefs, or just beliefs in general, people will start with an answer and they'll look for evidence.
Yeah, like confirmation bias all the time.
Yeah, that's it. Whereas science, you start with nothing and you find out. Like you don't know what you're going to find out, but you find out.
That's why I think a lot of the stories about how a lot of the theories currently in science came to be are also so interesting, because we've had so many ideas in the past, and a big thing in science is trying to prove everything wrong.
Yeah.
So like if you're out there and everyone believes that, you know, originally in science, in biology, they thought that there was a hierarchy of beings and that you know, all these animals always existed in their current form way back into the beginning of time. And sort of the idea that, you know, when we started finding, so for my birthday, I can't remember whether I briefly mentioned this on the podcast the other day, but they had those like giant shark teeth, what they called the megalodon.
Yeah.
You've seen them before.
Crazy.
And people used to find them and call them tongue stones because they kind of look like stones that were tongues. And the first people to sort of realize that, oh, actually, these aren't tongue stones. These are the teeth of an animal that no one can find. And then we started finding fossils. We kind of realized like all of these animals that we're finding don't exist anymore. And that completely, it took the entire field of biology, shook it up massively, because they all had this idea that, you know, all these animals always existed the way they are. And it was groundbreaking, but like, it wasn't easy to get this idea across. But like the whole point in science is proving current knowledge wrong. And they're not out there, scientists looking to prove themselves right. You start off by trying to prove yourself wrong. And it's only when you try to prove it wrong.
Yeah, it's like this becomes more likely to be true.
That's when you accept it,
Well, yeah, it's like just anytime you write up a scientific paper, 10 peers will read it looking for reasons why it's not valid. Like at every point in science, people will try and pick apart your theory because otherwise you just end up with bullshit.
Yep.
So
yeah. And a lot of them obviously get stuff wrong as well, don't they? I mean, you can look back at Darwin and how he first thought evolution worked. And I think a lot of people think, you know, we as people who aren't necessarily religious but believe in evolution sort of might worship Darwin, and it's like, oh, Darwin said this, therefore it must be true, and he was wrong, therefore the whole thing is wrong. And it's like, oh no, actually you can say stuff and get some things right, some things wrong. We can build on it. We've had hundreds of years of it. And just think, well, I think one thing we definitely have to say as well is that we kind of easily might be tempting to pit religion against science, but there are plenty of religious people who believe in all of this, who accept evolution and the Big Bang. And like we say, we don't know everything, you know, we don't know scripture inside out. We've always said we want to bring religious people on and they can maybe more in depth explain their beliefs and why they believe, and maybe we could be convinced one day.
And just that's the most baffling thing. We just still know so little about what's outside the Big Bang. So it's like we could be a simulation for all we know.
Yeah. Oh, that's another thing. I really think it's
possible.
Likely,
likely.
Yeah, I
More
do.
likely than not.
Yeah. I mean, we spoke about the last podcast we did about dreams. And I mentioned the fact, I don't know where I read this, but it really opened my eyes to the fact, like how powerful our brains are. Like when you go to sleep and you start dreaming, you create a landscape, you create the people in it, you control their dialogue, but you don't know what they're going to say. You put yourself in that situation. You create a simulation for yourself just using your brain, and it feels so real. You wake up and you're like, oh God, it was a dream. Imagine how real a simulation is. And the thing is, we're so close to creating a simulation now. I think I actually saw Elon Musk talk about this. The fact we're so close to creating a simulation where the AI or whatever almost not have free will, but they like act like they actually have consciousness. And they will eventually make a simulation in that simulation and they'll keep going. And if we're close to doing that, it means we can't be the first if this is simulation, we're not the first simulation. We're not going to be the first people to make a simulation, are we?
Yeah,
so
for sure.
It's like we could well be in a simulation.
At that point, it's
within
like
a simulation.
we've just got to enjoy the little time that we have in our
Exactly,
weird little bubble. And
and I think that's why
see
it's
if we
nice
can
about
shag a few times.
That's a good.
Just once would be nice.
Yeah, please, Bethy,
Just
let there be a
one.
God.
Just one. Where do you stand on like conspiracy theories?
Not very high.
Yeah,
I love listening to them and reading about
they're
them.
really fun to listen to.
Yeah.
But I think that's where it's that's where you get the people who are like they don't understand the topic, so they make something up that's more understandable for them, and then
I love.
spread.
There's a Mitchell and Webb sketch about the moon landings, and they're going. It's like a set up as this company. I think it's they're supposed to be in the government, and they're like talking through the process of faking the moon landing. They're saying like, right, we're going to fake this, and they go through the whole process, and they're like, right, we're going to build a rocket, we're going to fire it into the sky, it has to get up into the atmosphere. It like it ends with him just being like, right, so we've done all this. Would it not have just been easier to pop to the moon?
Might as well have done it.
It's such a funny like way of presenting it.
Half the time the conspiracy theories they come up with are actually more complex than the truth.
It just doesn't make sense why they do it in the first place.
It's just crazy.
Did you see actually a couple of days ago, India took the photos of the lunar landing modules?
Oh no.
Really cool, sort of like, so they're obviously India landed on the moon recently and they are currently orbiting it and taking photos, and they actually took photos pretty zoomed in of the lunar landing modules, so you can sort of see them on the surface of the moon,
Really?
sort of stood up with the shadow, and it's kind of like, you know, if you didn't think the moon landings
Plot twist.
now India's in on it as well, and they're sort of
Yeah.
like taking photos of it, and it's like, I don't know.
I mean, it'll all come. We'll be back on the moon. Isn't it 2025?
Yeah.
They want to have boots on the moon, so you'll see it. But they won't believe it, will they?
No,
The people
exactly.
who-
That's the tough thing, because obviously we have so many photos of the Earth being a sphere, but you know, people will just say it's CGI,
Yeah, that's so
and,
true.
and unless they see it with their eyes, I think it's going to have to be when Virgin do the outer space flights for everyone.
Right, yeah, of course.
But
Yeah.
that's when the flat Earth
People will start to realise.
thing will they'll just be looking at
Oh
it.
shit.
And they're like, right, okay, it's a sphere. I can come down now, right?
Time to,
Guys,
time to delete
guys.
some tweets.
No,
They'll just leave them up there. Guys, bring me down now.
It's not going around the Earth.
But who knows? Maybe we'll bring a flat earther on. They'll convince us, and then
It's true.
all will
Maybe
be
when the
revealed
Virgin plane goes up, and we'll see it as flat.
as a flat disc.
Oh, imagine how stupid would we?
That would be crazy.
Everything we
wouldn't it?
know
That
would be wrong.
mental.
There.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I think the fake moon landing stuff is the worst for me because people
So
would be like,
dumb.
oh yeah, but we did it in the 60s. Why wouldn't we have done it again? Makes no sense.
Yeah.
Because there's
Why
no
would we?
funding. Yeah, there's no
What's the
reason,
point?
and no one
It's
funds
so
it.
no one wants to. It's so dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. And what are you going to do up there?
Yeah.
Nothing. Nish.
Some schools
chill
in the
them out.
US, because isn't there sort of some sort of like plate that you can sort of bounce lasers off?
Yeah.
Saw someone speaking about it on TikTok the other day, and they had like an experiment in school where they sort of like send a laser up. It reflects off this panel on the moon that they put up there, and it comes
Oh,
back.
right, wow.
And so you can judge by the speed of light how far away the moon is.
Yeah.
You can obviously tell that we went up there and put a plate on there.
Yeah.
And so it's like experiments you can kind of do yourself, but
Yeah.
some people still don't believe.
No, I think they'd rather.
It's kind of, I do have a weird, this is kind of weird to say, but a weird admiration for like people like flat earthers and stuff like that, in a sense that they are doing what science is there to do. Like, we do need people
Yeah,
to
constantly.
go like everything
Yeah.
that we believe is wrong. Because without that, we wouldn't have the Big Bang Theory. We'd still believe in the steady state universe.
Just ignoring the evidence side of it. That's not
that's
fantastic.
true. But that kind of mindset of like I'm going to go out there and experiment. Have you ever seen that movie on like flat Earth? And they sort of do 2 experiments.
I saw that.
And both of them prove it to be a sphere.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
They sort of like shine a laser over a lake and they're like, if this is flat, you'll see the light at like 6 feet. Whereas if there's curvature, it's going to be at 18 feet. And he holds the light at like 6 feet and he's like, I'm not seeing anything. You just hold it up to 18 feet. And he holds it up to 18 feet and it glows. And he's like, interesting. And the movie ends.
And they bought that thing that judges, like, they shows you how Earth is spinning.
Oh, the gyroscope.
The gyroscope. They don't believe that the Earth is spinning even.
Yeah.
And so it clearly showed that the Earth was spinning, and they were like, well, nah, we're not. Nah.
Really?
They're doing like a million, because obviously the Earth turns at 15 degrees per hour, and they buy this like 30 grand gyroscope. Like they all pump so much money into this, and they measure. And the guy's there, and he's like, and we measure a 15 degree per hour drift. And now they're like, they're trying to put the gyroscope in a freezer in a lead box. They think that like particles from the universe are interacting with it, and that like there are other excuses other than the fact that the Earth's spinning. And it's kind of like, at that point,
surely you need to be skeptic about what you believe. And
now
why
you've done the experiment and you've got the results that show you. Now start accepting.
Give it a rest now, would you?
Especially when you get the 15 degree, like when it's dead on.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, if it feels a little off, fair enough. Try the lead box, try that stuff. But when it's dead on and they've already done the experiment.
And that's the same with the light thing. Like it's not just like they're holding a light. Like they've drawn 2 circles in this plank of wood so that it's like either 16 foot or 18. There's a massive difference, and like no show at all at the 6 and like a complete glow at 18. And it's like, this is perfect proof. And now, but you can see their Twitter accounts, and they're now like, oh, you know, the atmosphere was refracting it. The water, like light travels differently just above the surface of water, and that's why it's bending. And it's like, at what point do you
very difficult to change people's beliefs once they've decided.
It's so true.
I think also it's worth touching on that, like a lot of kind of what I've been trying to tweak in the last like 5-6 years is when you speak to someone who doesn't believe something that you believe, just not going in an aggressive manner at trying to, like, even if something that they believe, your inherent reaction is that is insane. Like, how can you believe that? You're like, the whole point of having a conversation with them is not to be like, you're an idiot. It's to try and make them, if you believe it so strongly, try and kind of open their mind and believe the things that you believe. So it's like, just, I like, it's so easy to just be like, you're a fucking idiot. But like, really training yourself to not come across aggressive or standoffish when you talk about it, I think is just like, it's absolutely vital for having these chats with people.
It's especially, it becomes difficult when they're not like that though. Do you know what I mean? When they're like really pushing it on you, saying, well, that's not the case. And then you're like, well, it is. And then you get into this sort of debate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's when it becomes, and then as soon as someone says something personal, you're like, fantastic. Well, this is over like, now. Well, you never had any friends at school. So
a lot of them have little slurs for you as well. Like you speak to a flat earth and they're like, of course you believe that globe-tard. And you're like,
globe-tard.
Have you not heard that
not
before?
A word.
It is, isn't it?
It is,
That's what they call them.
Oh, I'm so more willing to believe in flat earth now.
Yeah, they're creative.
Globe-tard is amazing.
And you think that you've got this piece, and then they go, globe-tard, and you're like, fuck.
Globe-tard.
Yeah, what can you even say?
You've broken me.
What do you mean?
Massively off. Have you ever had anything where you've been like, you strongly believed something and then you found out it wasn't true? Just any kind of thing. And you're like, God, that's really difficult to overcome.
I don't think so. I've never really had like strong beliefs on topics where there are multiple options. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Other than religion. And in that case, I was never religious, but I never really thought about it. I just thought, I don't believe in God. Like I was never like shaken about it or anything.
I think I've had situations where you've said like, oh, you said this to me, or I did this, and it's like, you know, based on memory, and you're like so convinced that, and you're like, I remember it, that's 100% what happened, and then you get like video proof and you're just like, oh dear, that's a shame. I think that's the closest I've had where you're just like, I'm so sorry, I don't know why.
Yeah,
I
the
thought that so
small ones that get me are lyrics. Some like
Yeah,
when I've been singing a song and I think the lyrics are that for so many years, and then I find out the real lyrics, I have a bit of the cognitive dissonance, like no, it can't be. And I'm like going on several other lyrics websites.
You globed.
Yeah.
Nice one, lyric tard.
No, I get that.
I feel
with
like
lyrics.
that's a bit dangerously close to slurs. I apologise. if that's coming a bit closer.
They invented it.
Yeah, they invented it.
Yeah, you've just taken
not
off them
not
and
cool
then
for flat
started
earthers.
using it.
Actually, let's not.
Yeah.
You know, come up with a less. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see how it would rock their, like how reluctant to
Oh, of course.
realize you're wrong. Like even little, like if you say a word wrong, like I was saying Tupperware for ages instead of Tupperware.
No way.
And I just and it doesn't sound right.
No,
the
initially
right
you're
way.
like, yeah, just what are you talking about? Of
yeah,
course.
exactly. You're so against it.
I learned that literally like the other day someone spelt segue as in like your segue into this section.
Yeah.
And I always thought it was spelt as in a Segway that you ride.
Oh my god, same.
and it's UE,
And
not.
it's you. And I was like,
Yeah.
which idiot has written this as Segway?
Yeah.
And like the entire office were like, what are you talking about? And it was like a real moment where I was just like, my bad, guys. I'm so sorry for ridiculing you. I did not realize that was how it's
That's
spelled.
I had the exact same thing. I was having like a meeting and they had the word written up on the
Yeah,
thing.
and you're
I
like,
was
Segu?
It's
What?
like, yeah, yeah,
Which-
exactly.
Which absolute idiot wrote this?
I know. I was like, that's not how you spell Segway.
Yeah.
And then they were like, yes, it is. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. I'm never gonna speak in public again.
No, exactly.
That was
yeah. You start to
horrifically
doubt
embarrassing.
everything.
Yeah.
Like sayings as well. I thought, play it by
Oh, yeah.
ear. I thought it was play it by year the whole time.
Oh wow.
But that's
No
so
way.
close. Like play it by year, play it by year.
Yeah.
It sounds
yeah.
like it. And it just makes more sense year
Yeah.
to me rather than ear.
Worse for wear. I'm still not quite sure what
Worse
that
for
is.
wear.
What is that?
Well, yeah,
Is that
it
worst for
or
wear?
worst?
That's definitely worse.
Yeah, worse.
Worse.
Yeah.
Not worst.
For
Worse
where.
for wear. As in
Yeah.
like
And yeah,
clothes
which
you
one?
wear.
WEAR.
Yeah.
I think like a worn away. Like
Worse for
wear.
wear. That's a bit
Yeah,
worse
I
for
think you're
wear.
right, but it,
Yeah.
it could be worse to wear as well. I don't
And
know.
you just assume it's something else your whole life.
Yeah. With all of these things, sort of like I always think with a lot of embarrassing things, that one of the reasons that I kind of get a bit of peace from the idea of death is that all the embarrassing things that I've ever done, I'm going to forget about them. There's going to be a day
What a sad way
where
to
I'll-
live.
where I'll no longer
Yeah.
lie in bed like that social interaction was not my best work.
Not my best mate. At least I'll be dead one day.
Yeah, yeah. There'll be an end to these making notes on podcasts of little things you need to stop doing.
So do you have a sort of like age you'd want to live to?
I want to live till I'm 100 just because I think it would be cool. I don't know if I'd necessarily be enjoying life all that much when I'm 100, but I think with like intermittent fasting and ways to try and stop aging, I think I can do it.
You'll get
where I won't be shitting myself by the time I'm 100. That's the plan. Yeah.
Would you rather your mind or your body go first?
Yes, that's a good question.
Because it almost inevitably one does go first. You either get sort of like, I don't know about your grandparents, but some of them are sort of
yeah.
like, kind of forget who you are and they're
Yeah.
physically well, or their sort of like body starts going and they're but they're mentally still
difficult,
there.
isn't it?
I think I'd rather my mind go first. I wouldn't
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
have a completely sound mind in a body that I can't use.
Yeah. And also, if your mind goes first, like it's kind of the people around you to have to deal with. Like you might still be quite blissfully happy,
Yeah.
not really aware. Like when I had concussion is probably the closest thing. Like I really had the confusion. I went up to the reception at A&E and they were like, "What's your address and your phone number?" And I was like,
Couldn't get it.
I have no idea.
Wow,
it was honest. It was
really?
terrifying. I never knew that could happen. I just thought, concussion was like a bad headache. But and then like speaking to, I thought I was making sense. Like I sent a message into our football chat trying to be like, "I'm fine, guys," and made
I
a joke,
remember that one.
and it made no sense. And like in
Yeah.
the time, I was like just trying to make a joke, and like everyone replied like, I hope you're okay, mate. Like, no one
It was-
cooked me in the
They
chat.
were
'Cause I think
worried.
everyone was
That's how
like, you're like, he's dead.
It was like an AI generated string of random words.
It was so
very
weird.
bizarre
Yeah.
reading
Oh
it, and we
my
were like,
God.
But
oh,
like,
I'm worried
and
about
all
him.
my messages to all my family as well were exactly the same at that time. And in the moment, you're like, I think that makes sense. But you're just so blissfully unaware of the fact that you are just waffling.
It's like drunk texting a girl, isn't it?
Yeah.
She'll wake up the next day like,
Oh,
what
God.
was I trying to say? What's that?
What colour is it?
Cillian
Yeah.
Murphy.
God, why have I not used the wide angle?
What's that Cillian
Straight
Murphy
from the
sound
top.
that was trending on TikTok? Like a true love beats the heart. What the fuck was I trying to
Oh,
say?
yeah. Oh, yeah. What is that? The fuck is that? Something like that, isn't it? Yeah, that's
Waking up, reading the message. I said,
That's so true.
shit.
Yeah, so I think, maybe mind might be nicer.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
mind is like, I think I'd rather mind, but it is kind of a selfish answer because
Yeah.
to your family, you're basically dead.
Yeah.
But they have to
Just
watch you.
become vegetable. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not fun,
And
is it?
you're like, you're not you anymore.
Yeah, you're not the person that they've
Yeah.
always known.
It is really sad when that happens.
Yeah. And speaking of family, the last thing you wanted to talk about was what age you wanted to have kids.
Nice segue, Arthur.
So what was
Yeah,
this?
nice
Thanks.
segue.
How you spelling that?
Fuck no.
I don't know anything anymore. I don't know what to believe. I mean, I don't know. Like, I literally just this morning, I was speaking to a random person just a stranger who was at a running club, and he was like, "No, I did just go
Okay,
up to
all
the
right.
street.
Kids?
Yeah, what?
Try not to
Breeding
die
kid-
alone, pal." And he was like, honestly, just have kids as soon as you can. Like,
Really?
it's the best thing in the world. And my current stance is very much like, I want to do all the things that I can do as a single, or not necessarily single, but someone who can do all these things without
Yeah.
the handcuffs of having a child. And but there's two ways of looking at it, isn't it? It's like you can kind of, if you have kids early, then you have more chance to do things after the kids have grown up and gone to school.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
yeah, I don't know. I think it's a weird one, but you know, you kind of do need someone to have them with first. So it's very much not within
Well,
my grasp at the moment.
He's currently trying to do it with himself.
I can so see that.
He's got
Actually.
such a
Him
strong
asexually
breeding-
reproducing, I can totally believe.
Yeah, you would definitely do that.
I wrote my dissertation on asexual reproduction.
Of
in
course you
humans.
did.
Oh my god.
That is the most.
What are the chances of that?
That is so in line with
Really?
your brand. Is crazy.
Yeah.
Fucking-
God, imagine being the reviewer of that. This fucking
But
freak.
yeah, you could have
Like,
written
yes,
it on
it's
anything.
written well, but like,
It
But
was a great
me.
dissertation.
It's almost creepier that it's written well, though. It's like
Yeah.
it's written way
God,
too
this man's
well.
clever as
Yeah.
well. You
It's
know,
like he's got case studies. He's tried it.
yeah, there's a good chance that he tries this in the
Yeah.
future. All right, come on then. Yeah,
Give us
Well,
something.
Preach to us.
it was slightly more,
Make me your
more
brother.
of a legal issue. So obviously, when we were in the EU,
Oh, wow.
well, the EU has this biotech directive that sort of gives protection to anything that has the possibility of becoming a human life. So a human embryo, a fertilized human embryo. And it sort of just set us back really badly in terms of biotechnology and sort of like stem cell research. And it's like, you know, if you can take a fertilized human embryo and make a heart and give it to someone who would otherwise die, should that be something that a government
Yeah, is
says,
that
no,
moral?
you shouldn't do it? And especially it became a bit more difficult with the sort of like, the people who were deciding these laws didn't fully understand the science and the fact that you
Yeah.
can, in layman's terms, essentially electrocute a female egg and get it to start dividing by itself. And that sort of fell under this protection. And there were just loads of real issues. And obviously the biotech, the science, this was another example of, it was kind of science versus religion, because it was kind of science going like, these like cells, these cells that you
they're
couldn't
not
even see
feeling
in a petri
anything,
dish
there's no
could
consciousness.
like, we could be saving, we can make hearts, livers, lungs, like we could be saving all these people, and people going, we think that that's technically life. And that
Yeah.
comes under the sort of protection that comes from our Judeo-Christian values of something with human life, or the potential to become human life. You know, life begins at conception, this idea that fundamentally gives them this protection that, you know, maybe it shouldn't. And maybe that science should be left to have these difficult decisions and discuss morality without religion just saying, here are the way things are. This has the potential to become human life. Therefore, it's got protection as a human. And I was sort of going through the sort of like arguments between science and religion and institutions perhaps overstepping the mark, and really interesting stuff actually, but
Yeah.
quite boring. Obviously got very technical at times.
Yeah,
so like
yeah, I can
writing out
imagine.
directive.
Back to the question of having kids. When do you guys want to have kids?
The second the electric.
For fuck's sake, man.
No,
Do you actually know when you want to have kids?
just no, I'm not going to
You
say.
probably got some.
Just nothing on a battery. I said I wasn't going to say it, and then I said it. What's wrong
Yeah,
with me?
I know. You can't help yourself.
It was too funny. About an hour in, I just start getting weird on this podcast.
God, and that was quite good for you, to be fair.
Yeah. You kept it in for a while.
No, I do it late because obviously my dad's like late 50s, and
What,
I've-
now?
yeah, and I've got
So you
loads
did
of
it quite
I've got,
young?
like younger siblings.
Or are you the oldest?
I'm the third oldest, but I'm obviously one of nine, and my younger sister's 6.
Yeah.
And he's, I think as long as you're fit and able as a parent, it's fine.
He's clearly very fertile, so
Yeah.
looks good for you.
Extremely fertile.
Yeah, God.
I'm worried how fertile you might be.
Yeah, God, you might have a good shot at this asexual
Yeah.
reproduction.
Don't worry.
Even sat right here, and
Yeah.
the fact that you've written your
You might produce
dissertation
eggs.
on
Yeah,
that.
who knows?
People always, when I say I've got 9 siblings, every now and then you get someone who thinks they're really funny, be like, your parents love shagging, don't you? And it's like,
Yeah.
I'm sure your parents have shagged more than 9 times in the past, like 25 years.
My mum's a virgin.
That's literally once every 2 years. You know how depressingly low that is for a normal married couple. Your mum's probably getting it at least once
your
a week.
mum's getting railed right now.
Yeah.
So fuck off. Your mum had sex last night. I know because I shagged her.
I was there.
Yeah.
Yes, now.
Oh God.
Yeah, we have fun.
I don't know when I'd have
A broad
kids.
range of intellectual conversations on this podcast.
I think
I
that's the
know.
best way to be. Yeah.
Big bang to I shagged your mum.
Yeah. Talking about big bangs. Time I fucked your mum.
Didn't need the follow up because we got it.
No,
but
sorry, yeah, didn't need the joke spelling out.
When do you
think,
want to have
I
kids,
think
Batch?
30 because it's a round number.
We can do 30.
Maybe. How old are you guys? Are you the same age? Were you in the
Yeah.
same year at school?
Yeah,
Okay.
same.
So,
You're just
no,
about the
I
same.
think I'm
Later.
probably like 34, 35.
Yeah, it's fine to do it like that time. Maybe I'll do that.
I think it's
I'm
very
doing what
much
Chris
like,
is
wait, how old are you?
I'm 23.
Okay, yeah. So I think as you get older and you realise how little
Yeah.
you've still done with your life, you're like,
Yeah.
maybe I'll just push that on a
I'll
little
keep
bit.
pushing it back.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm in no rush to have kids. I might not even have kids. The thing is,
Yeah.
it's difficult. I grew up with 3 sisters, so there's 4 kids, not nearly
Congrats.
as big as your family, but it was nice to have like a full house, like to play with your siblings and stuff. And for my
Yeah.
parents, I know that it's nice for them to have like a full house, like because it could get lonely
sure.
just a couple in a house sometimes. So I do like the idea of having a full house of kids. Like if you want to play games or whatever, you can. It's not going to be
Yeah.
like just not a lonely existence, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just so annoying that the world population is a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
'Cause it'd be so great to have like 5 kids
Yeah,
or whatever,
yeah.
a huge family at like family events and
Yeah.
stuff. It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, so much more fun.
Yeah.
So much more fun. But I just don't know now. Because also the state of the world isn't looking great for the future.
It's true.
I would think you're someone who
So-
thinks that we're going to go
Arthur asexually
intergalactic
reproducing.
by the time our kids will be like 20.
I do, but I don't necessarily think that's a good thing.
Oh, really?
I don't think intergalactic. We wouldn't go intergalactic. I don't think.
No.
No, we'll definitely be on Mars. But,
Yeah. Intergalactic's just so fucking difficult. On
Yeah.
the current limitations that we've got.
yeah, I just don't think. I don't know what I think because I don't think we'll die.
Yeah.
But
I'm the
then-
same.
So does he. He
Yeah.
doesn't think we'll
Yeah,
die.
it's only because I read this book that really convinced me. Like, even by 2050, things will be insane, and I don't think. I think AI is the answer to immortality,
Yeah, I completely agree.
and so I don't think I'll die. But then I'm saying, I don't want to live forever.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't.
Well, with this kind of stuff, I was just thinking this because obviously we were talking about the start of the universe, at least in terms of its local presentation in space time,
Yeah,
and thinking about even if AI can sustain us in terms of our physical health and keep our consciousness in a robust setting, it's like, what about the heat death of the universe? I mean,
Yeah.
when everything
it's
fades
inevitable.
to
Yeah,
nothingness,
yeah.
that's pretty scary.
Maybe at that point we'll be able to prevent it though.
Prevent the heat death of the universe.
Hey, if we're that powerful,
Yeah, it's
we
true.
become God.
Do you think as well, if you like technically could live forever, you'd be way more scared about things in everyday life? Like if your life wasn't 100 years and it instead was 100,000, like are you bombing it down at 70 miles per hour after Folie Douce in France?
Yeah, hell no.
So true. That's so true. We know we're going to die at some point now. So
Yeah.
you live a little, don't you?
Yeah.
But if you think
Yeah, Arthur had a quote when we were skiing. He was like, that little feeling when you kind of realize that you're a little bit close to death is quite exhilarating. I don't think you'll have that if you were living to 100,000.
Yeah, no,
You're
that's
like,
true.
what am I doing?
Yeah. That's the most human thing you've ever said, I think.
Yeah.
I'm kind of worried now.
Yeah. Maybe you're not AI.
It is an interesting one because I think if we do end up living forever, I mean, one of the scary things was when I was reading a lot about the idea of us living together and how biologically relatively simple it will be to kind of just stop and reverse aging and just kind of keep us in our prime. Was I speaking to you about this actually? The idea, so that there were, the guy who wrote this quite long article on it was speaking about a bunch of really different weird things. But he was like, one of the weirdest things is going to be us, our parents and our grandparents and our kids all being physically the same age. Because we'll all be put into our relative like physical prime, like 25, 26 years old. Yeah. And you'll just be like, oh, that's my mum as like a 26-year-old and my grandma as a 26-year-old. Like, I think that could be really weird.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll just have to get used to the idea of like physical aging is no longer a thing. And it will just become the norm.
For everyone to just be...
How confident are you guys that this will happen? Like,
I'm
within our
100%.
I'll give you the book. Read it. It will make you think.
I'm as close to certain as that as pretty much any other technical.
Really?
It really is nowhere. Like if you listen to the scientists who like study this stuff, it's really nowhere near as difficult as you'd think. Like all of the information to have our entire bodies in its current state now is in every single one of your cells in your DNA, and it's all about just extracting that and just
I think I just have to live to 50 years old, make it to 2050. And if I can do that without getting any life-threatening illness or just a freak accident, then I think I'll live forever at that point. But you do have to get to that point.
Yeah, I think that's around the rough age this guy was gauging. But the
hit
sad thing,
2050.
If you guys have clickbaited me into believing that I might live forever, I'm gonna be really pissed.
No,
off.
I genuinely.
If it gets to 2050, and we're just nowhere near it,
No.
and I've already got 3 types of cancer, I'm gonna be so annoyed.
Well, I think that would be cute. They're really close to an mRNA cancer vaccine.
That's
at
true.
the moment that massively
Even
reduced
in the next
chance of
5-10 years, I think cancer.
Yeah.
There'll be a cure for cancer. There becomes problems though with population. When you get to the point where you can't die, what happens?
Yeah.
Every single human, if
Mars.
squished together, fits in a 1 mile by 1 mile by 1 mile cube.
Wait, what?
Squished.
You get every
human,
human
they fit in that?
in a 1 mile cubed. So there's not actually that many people.
Yeah.
It is, you do go to parts of the world and you're just like, fuck, there's nothing here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Majority of
That is
Jersey is
true.
just fields.
Yeah.
That is true. There is a lot of open space.
Yeah, like France.
Yeah.
But that is
Just fill
nice
that
to
up.
have that.
It is nice.
Oh, for
Like
sure,
you
yeah.
don't want every space occupied by someone.
No. But that's when I think, you just get to a point where we just
Like
start
the
moving to
podcast
other
community.
planets.
Yeah, exactly. Think how many podcasts there would be if people
Oh,
lived
fuck
forever.
that. Yeah.
And also,
God.
we're going to fall off at some point if we live forever or get cancelled.
That is so true. Yeah.
Can't
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah, we won't be up
Yeah,
forever.
we're not going to be up forever.
I think at that point,
Statistically be down at
they'll
some
just sort of like be like a, listen guys, we have to forgive mistakes because everyone's been around for so long. We've all done some stupid shit.
We live forever, guys. Please, you can't punish me forever.
Fair enough, don't hang out with that murderer too often, but
Oh yeah, and then what about imprisonment? Like,
Yeah.
do you
How
give
long
them
do you
the
have to be
same
in?
rights as like you get to live forever as well, or do you decide if you're in prison, you don't get to live forever? I reckon
Just
send
double
them
check.
to a planet and see what they come up with. They could come up with a whole.
Yeah.
We did it with Australia. Look, Australia's great.
Yeah.
Australia is great. Yeah. No one cares about anything there, really, do they?
So it's all right. It will be interesting when we do occupy Mars. Like if we're around to see it, where it's like Earth 2.0, they'll have their own celebrities. They'll have their own and people. I mean, there's a lot of. It will be connected. Like we'll have the same internet probably or whatever. But there will be things that are niche to Mars and niche to Earth.
Yeah.
And you'll have like Earth versus Mars football match. Like imagine that. Like stuff like that.
Mate, that
so
YouTube
cool.
title would absolutely pop. Earth versus Mars football challenges.
Oh my God, if Messi and Ronaldo are still alive, they can bring themselves back to prime. You can literally assemble a squad of like
Oh
the
my
great and
God.
just keep them in one team.
And you can finally answer who's the greatest.
Yeah.
Well, did you ever see the Samsung, I think it was a Samsung Galaxy advert where it was like Messi and Ronaldo and a bunch of football. It was like World 11 playing against these aliens for the fate of the Earth. It had Martin Tyler commentating it. It was like epic.
Oh,
It's pretty cool.
that will become a reality.
Yeah, that would be sick.
I really want that to happen.
Well, who knows what the future holds? And with that,
That was not natural at all. Well,
Why?
who knows what the future holds?
Then the side eye.
I thought that was going to be a really cool outro, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, take it away, Italian Bach, for the outro.
God.
Big thank you to Chris for coming on.
Thanks.
Go follow him everywhere. Do you want to shout anything out?
That is a
in
much
particular?
normal outro. Actually, I should have just done that.
Much normal.
Thank the guest for coming on. Anything particular? you
No,
want to
not
shout out?
really to shout out. Yeah, just my
go.
silly little football videos that I make that realistically have no meaning
Oh, well.
in comparison to the
But
entirety of the universe.
you guys give it meaning when you hit that subscribe button.
So true. Yeah.
So-
So, smash that like button,
Go
guys.
over and do all that. Subscribe,
Subscribe and say subscribe forever.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's another
Once you
thing.
reach everlasting life,
People be
make sure you're
subs
still
forever.
subscribed. Yeah, that's quite cool actually.
Sub
Anyway,
to us
end it.
forever as well. Like us. Rate us on Spotify.
Yeah.
Do stuff on Spotify.
Do all
I
the,
don't know what's
do
going
all
on
the
over there.
podcast things.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. Anything?
And the Patreon.
Patreon. Do what you have to do.
And most of all, thanks for watching and listening.
Yeah. True. Thanks.
Bye.
See ya.